The opposition targeted the Modi government after the IMF lowered India's GDP growth forecast for FY20 and blamed the emerging economies for the global downturn. Former Finance Minister Chidambaram put out a tweet criticizing the government. Chidambaram said that the IMF chief economist Gita Gopinath was amongst the first to denounce demonetization. He added that union ministers will now attack Gopinath and the IMF. Kapil Sibal, Sachin Pilot too hit out at the Modi government for the economic slump, along with OAC and DMK's Kani Modi, speaking exclusively to India today at the ongoing 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos. IMF's chief economist Gita Gopinath elaborated on the global fallout of India's slowdown. Gopinath said that the economic slowdown in India has impacted global forecasts up to 80%. She said that the financial sector is under stress and there was a sharp decline in credit growth as well.
I want to start by understanding from you the extent to which you think and the IMF believes that the slowdown in India is currently lowering the overall global economic.
So we've projected growth at 2.9% for 2019 and 3.3% for 2020. That's 0.1 percentage point lower compared to October. And the vast majority of that comes from our downgrade for India, which was quite significant for both years.
So how much of the overall global economic growth forecast that's been lowered has been lowered on account of the India story slowing?
I mean, if you just do the simple calculation, it would be over 80%.
That's quite significant. I want to understand from you, what is your road ahead? Because in the report that you put out just now, you're saying that the India growth story will be at 4.8%, which is substantially lower than your original estimates. When we spoke last year, the IMF was far more bullish. What, according to you, led to such a significant revision?
So the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 2019-20 came in weaker than we had projected, which is why we had this substantial downgrade. I think the one sector where we are seeing the most stress is in the financial sector, the non-bank financial corporations. We've seen a sharp decline in credit growth and a weakness in business sentiment. And that has led to the revised numbers that we have for India now.
What's your outlook going forward? Do you believe the bottom has reached and from here we'll see a pickup, because no one quite seems to be certain about where the bottom really is?
So we have India recovering. So we have India at 4.8% for 2019, but then going up to 5.8% in 2020. So we have a significant recovery coming in the next fiscal year. There's a fair amount of monetary stimulus in the system. The corporate tax cuts are there. And there have been these programs for transfers to the rural sector. These should help with the recovery in growth.
What are you making of the policy measures the government has rolled out so far? There have been some reports, most notably from Arvind Subramaniam, which said that, while of course land and labor are important reforms, given the current situation, that's not necessarily what will provide the stimulus. In the way that you see it and the IMF sees it, what's the kind of stimulus that you think that the Indian policymaker should really be looking at?
I think the major issue to address is this weakness in credit growth that I mentioned. And so policies that can resuscitate credit growth, but at the same time one has to make sure that you don't create another non-performing asset problem. I think that's the first step. So it could be quicker recapitalization of banks. I think that would be an important area. But there's also has to be important governance reforms. Again, like I said, you don't want down the road to be another whole set of issues with non-performing assets. So governance reforms are also important. And besides that, there is monetary stimulus in the system and the corporate tax cuts. I mean, these are forces that we project will help India go back up to 5.8%.